So, you saw the title and the thumbnail, and you wonder why I put reviews of these two seemingly unrelated movies together. There actually is a reason for that. And that reason is because these are the two movies that I most recently watched. And I don't really have that much to say about both of them that I need to make one video for each. Actually, maybe I do, and maybe I'm just too lazy to do that. But yeah, anyway. Normally in this part I would say some stuff that has something to do with the movies being reviewed, as like a hook for the video, but there's nothing like that here. So yeah, that's the intro for this one, I guess. Hi, my name is Random Guy Reviews. And I'm just a random guy, nothing unusual about me, and I make poorly recorded and edited reviews of all kinds of media that I consume, from books, movies, TV shows, and even in some cases podcasts. In this video, I'm reviewing two movies. First is Zack Snyder's Netflix original Army of the Dead, and the second one is Sony's new animated movie, The Mitchells vs. the Machines. One thing to note about my reviews is that what I say about these things or these movies or books or whatever are all just my own personal opinion. I believe that art is subjective, so you obviously can disagree with the things that I say here. And if you do, please let me know in the comments about what you disagree with and what you actually think about it. Yeah, as always, if you enjoy the content that I'm making, please leave a like or dislike. It helps the algorithm just the same, I'm pretty sure. And subscribe to the channel for more poorly made media reviews. Enjoy! So first, I'm going with Army of the Dead. This is a zombie flick starring a brilliant ensemble cast led by Dave Bautista. The story is set in a world where Vegas is now zombified, closed off from the rest of the world, and the characters, the ensemble, are filled with people who want to enter the city for one reason or another. And yeah, that's basically the non-spoilery premise of it. And let me tell you, this is a Snyder movie through and through. It is very, very obvious from the intro, what is it called? Montage, that this is a Snyder movie. But, well, Snyder has never been one of my favorite directors because many of the, Snyderisms, many of the things he tends to do in his movies are just not my cup of tea. Nothing against him or nothing against his movies. It's just not made for people like me. I do respect that he often goes for these grandiose, epic stories that are just bigger than life. But to me, most of that just came off as pretentious garbage and I just couldn't really care. I get the appeal for most people, but most of his movies just don't appeal to me at all. Unless I go watch just to look for beautiful visuals and not characters or stories that I can connect with or give a shit about. But yeah, this Army of the Dead is different from that. Going into this movie, I was apprehensive, to say the least. Yes, I thought his Justice League was decent and it was a much needed improvement compared to the Whedon version, but it still had the same problems that many of his previous movies had, and just not as much, and he actually did stuff to turn those problems into good things in some cases. And I think Army of the Dead does that to an even further extent, to the point that maybe it's actually my favorite Snyder movie. I mean, I hated Sucker Punch and Watchmen, and I thought 300, Man of Steel, and BVS were alright, if not a bit mediocre. So yeah, I guess this is my favorite Snyder movie that I've seen. What I didn't like about this is almost the same things I didn't like in other Snyder movies. There were just too much slow-mo shots for my taste. I think Snyder knows very well how to make them look really good, but I would prefer the slow-mos to be like a tool to emphasize things instead of the default setting for a lot of the epic scenes or the fight scenes. That way it would feel a bit more intentional and purposeful, I guess. However, I really like some of the characters in the ensemble. Generally not the biggest fan of ensembles because I want to care about the characters, and when you have like 8 of them in the ensemble, it's difficult to care for most of them. But the main 2 of the ensemble were great. I love the father-daughter dynamic, and I love how their arcs and stories evolve, I guess. And I do have to admit, while I'm not really invested in the lesser characters in the ensemble. Most of them have their own moments, which is nice. One of the things that the movie does to compensate for the fact that it is an ensemble is that the movie pads the runtime to give the less important characters some screen time, but most of it just falls flat for me and they just kind of bore me. So yeah, I guess that's what I have to say about it. One more thing actually. This movie quoted Joseph Campbell, the dude who popularized the hero's journey, which is like one of my favorite things in storytelling. So yeah, that's nice. Anyway, I'm giving this like a 3.5 out of 5 from me. Pretty good. Yeah. And now for the Mitchells versus the Machines, which is like another really fucking good animated movie from Sony. After Into the SpiderVerse, which is like one of my favorite superhero movies, even though I was never a fan of Spider-Man at all. Anyway, back to the Mitchells versus the Machines. Basically, this is the story of a family kind of falling apart while the entire world falls apart around them as robots begin invading the world. Yeah, that's basically what it is. And while it doesn't really seem like an original or novel premise, I still really enjoyed it because the execution is very good. From the beautiful and stylish animation styles, I guess, to the sometimes hit or miss, but more often hit style of humor that I've seen many people call cringe. I mean, yeah, it at times it can be cringe, but I don't mind it because the main character is a teenager and teenagers are cringe. Let me tell you, because I know because I was one. And usually this is around the time when I say negative stuff about the movie. Honestly, I need to think before I can like list the negatives more than I have to think about it in other movies. I honestly don't think there's really anything that I didn't like about it. But more like there are things that I think are not as great as the rest of the movie, as I mentioned above. Things like the voice acting, which I thought was alright across the board, but it didn't blow me away like the voice acting in SpiderVerse, for example. Another thing is the villain, which I personally didn't find to be all that compelling. It didn't bother me all that much because the villain was never the focus is on the family. So yeah, compared to how brilliant everything is, that kinda not quite up to par with that, I guess. One more thing actually. Despite the fact that it's presented really brilliantly with the soundtrack and the animation and stuff, the whole thing just feels a bit predictable if you see past that, and I guess that's not really a bad thing, but only because I was distracted by how pretty everything looked and how interesting the characters are. The actual plot itself is just rudimentary, I guess. Nothing really surprising. Overall, still, it's a really good movie. It's just that some aspects of it are not quite as good as others. And yeah, it's still really good and I definitely recommend it to everyone. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, that's what I think about these movies. Again, let me know in the comments what you think and see you next time. Thank you.